Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you from the UK. Today is Friday the 18th of October 2024. I'm so glad you're joining me to talk about some knitting, and it is mostly knitting this week. I haven't finished anything for once. I've just been making new things, casting on recklessly. I've just been a bit all over the place. So I thought I'd show you what I've gotten up to over this last week. So where should we start? Let's start with some socks. I mentioned last week that all I want to knit is musselburgh hats and socks, and the ankle, to be fair. So in terms of socks, what I've done is I'm still ignoring my Colorwork Cuff Club socks. Instead, I finished the first of these socks. This is yarn from Fab Funky Fibers, who is in the UK. This is I think it's Maggie's sweater or Maggie's jumper colorway. And what I tend to do is I tend to get her 50 grams of self-striping yarn. And then if I do contrasting cuffs and heels, I can easily make a pair of socks. In fact, if I even had enough yarn to make the toes in the self-striping, which tells you I probably could have made these even longer, which I think is quite impressive considering I have quite big feet for a woman. I think I have a EU size 42. So yeah, sock number 1 is done. And the downside if you get one 50-gram ball of yarn is sometimes you can't really match stripes perfectly, but in this instance it just worked out perfectly. So what I did is I wound up the 50-gram cake of yarn and then just split that into two. So I split that into two 25-gram cakes like this, and just by chance it worked out that these will be matching, which honestly I'm not too fussed about, but I am happy it did work out. So I have started the second sock. I had an evening the other day where I just knit cuffs for socks. And for this contrast color, I am using Filcolana Weta, which I think that actually works really nicely with this yarn and the slightly longer cuff. I think I did 22 rows of 2x2 rib. I think it just looks really neat. So yeah, these socks are a work in progress. And then I caked up some new yarn, which I was going to cast on for myself. This is whip yarns that I got from a friend years and years and years ago. Let's see. Whip yarns, colorway Nebula in the Glimmer and Glamour base, which is very, very sparkly. Not sure if you can see. And I caked this up to make some more vanilla socks for myself, and my son saw this. And he's like, oh my god, it sparkles! And he immediately needed socks out of it. He wanted a jumper, and when I told him I can't knit him a jumper out of 100 grams of fingering weight, and I also didn't want to, he was like, fine, I'll take socks. So yeah, he caught me into that one. So that's what we're doing. So I cast on some socks, and sorry, I have a bit of I don't know what I have going on here. I think that's what happens if you knit around a 4-year-old. But yeah, I have started his socks, and aren't they just so fun? I'm not sure if you can see the sparkle, but yeah, I think they're really fun, and my son loves space. So this is actually perfect for him. Like, I think it has a very sort of spacey galaxy theme, and then with the sparkle, and like it actually is turning out really, really well. I'm a little bit jealous because the space is really nice. And I did felt his last pair of socks, which that was a commercial sock yarn, and it just felt it, which is awful, and I was really disappointed. So I told myself in the future for him, I would only use sort of very like 100% washable yarn, which I know all superwash yarns you can wash, but the fancier bases, I tend to be a bit more careful, whereas with like Opal and Regia and so on, you can just throw them on a 30-degree wash and they'll be fine. So I wasn't planning on using such a nice base on my child again, but here we are. I just hope they will hold up, and yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing 52 stitches, which is crazy because it's still small, but it's not tiny. Like, these socks aren't going crazy fast. I guess he has big feet like me. and I am making him some vanilla socks. So that is another new cast on. And then I did pick up my Rebel cardigan, finally. I didn't talk about this for a couple of episodes, and I was debating if I should show it to you today because I still haven't made massive amounts of progress, but that's because the rows are getting really long now. So this is the Rebel cardigan by Anke Strick, who is a German designer, and I've gone on and on about how clever this construction is. It's really hard to show, but it's an open front cardigan. It's got a really cool sort of construction in the back, which you can't see at all. You can kind of see. It was really clever to put it all together, and basically now I am just increasing loads until I can soon, I think like 8 rows or something to go until I can split for the sleeves. So right now the rows are really, really long because this is a fingering weight yarn, albeit on a sort of sport gauge, but still. Yeah, it is slow going, but I did put a couple of rows in, and more importantly, I had to find out where I was in the pattern and all of that. So yeah, I think I just need to keep plugging away on this every now and then, just do a little bit, and I think once I have split, it'll be very, very simple in terms of just picking it up and knitting a couple of rows and putting it back, and B, I feel like it's already quite long by the time you split for the sleeves. So in a way, compared to a raglan where you split up here, I think this construction means that once I've split for the sleeves, like the body should grow quite quickly as well. So yeah, I am very excited about this. I think this is such a beautiful garment. Yeah, I just need to find the will to actually work on it. And the yarn that I'm using for this is Studio Donegal Darny, which is just beautiful. I love it so much. It's like slightly heathery and slightly tweedy, but not too much. It's got the perfect handle. I really love this yarn. I wish it came in more colors, but it is very, very beautiful. So that is my Darny cardigan. I'm still on my first ball of yarn. I think I have 3, maybe 4. I should have enough. We will be fine. And then yeah, I do the Cowl last in case people are not interested. I did take my Musselburgh hat yesterday. I was on a play date and after school, and this was perfect sort of play date knitting. Nothing much has changed on this, but it still exists. I'm still working on it, and I was just thinking yesterday, like, this is even better than socks when you're like around kids and stuff, because I'm literally just knitting round and round and round and round. And yeah, I'm still enjoying it. It's coming across very pink against my sort of reddish brown jumper, but it is more saturated. It's more like a, you can kind of tell maybe. It's a pretty color, I think. So yeah, there we go. I should find a bigger bag than this. And then I cast on something new last night because a couple of weeks ago I got this book. If you've seen the sort of doodle decks and all of that, I was lucky enough to give a doodle deck away a couple of months, if not a year ago. I'm not sponsored. This is a company called Pacific Nits, I believe, and they come out with all these really fun color work patterns and decks, and they've brought out a book. So I bought the book with my own money. I am not sponsored. And I've just been looking at it, and I thought even for my son, like, there's just really, really fun charts in here. I can't really show you anything without showing you the charts, but there's like kitty stuff, like look at these fox mittens and like season themed charts and stuff. It's really, really fun. I keep looking at it, and I keep looking at other people's projects on Instagram and Ravelry. And yesterday I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna grab some yarn and do something because I wanted to make some color work. So what I did is I have a lot of this yarn in my stash. This is Filcolana Pernia. I've used this for a couple of projects. I used it for my first half and half wrap, which sadly doesn't exist anymore, but really like the yarn. I then started to make a blanket out of this yarn, which is why I have so much of it, but then turned the blanket into a cushion. So long story short, I have a lot of colors of this yarn, and the patterns, I wanted to make them in fingering weight yarn, but they're all for DK weight, and I could have done whatever I wanted. I thought about holding yarn double, and then I realized, why don't I just hold the yarn that is already like a sport to DK? It's a sport. Like I don't need to wind anything. I don't need to hold things double. It'll just be really easy. So I have started a cowl. And I say cowl very carefully because if I enjoy it, it might become a scarf. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I have started something. And I just did this last night, so you can see I've done like 3 little motifs, like a zigzaggy one, an autumn leaf, and yeah. I'm just sort of color working along and dropping stitches as I record a podcast. But I'm really enjoying it. It's really fun to just sort of go through the book and pick a pattern or pick a chart. Yeah, and like swap colors around. So my plan is to drop more stitches, and my plan is to hold sort of the black as the background color throughout, unless I change my mind. But for now, I think I'm going to keep holding the black throughout because I have 4 balls of it. And then I even have more colors upstairs, but I picked like all the pinks and then this, just because I thought it worked. And I think like a cream to do color work, but obviously I could go more crazy as I go along. We'll see what happens. And the fun thing is I could make this sort of a 1 wrap cowl. I could keep going and make it like a double wrap. I could even just do like a color work section and then like, I don't know, a black section, a stripe section. And I think anything you do, it'll look pretty good. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I think most of the sizes cast on the same amount of stitches. I am using 3.5 millimeter needles. And you should really do a provisional cast on, but I hate provisional cast ons. They're just so flipping annoying. And please, like, I know I even have a good technique that works really well and isn't annoying to do, but I just don't like them. So don't give me your favorite provisional cast on techniques. It's not the technique, I just don't like it. So I just did a regular cast on, and if I do want to join this in the round, I'll pick up some stitches and I'll graft it or do something. I've done it in the past. And if I do want to turn it into a scarf, I'll pick up some stitches and do some ribbing. Like, I don't know where we're going with this. I'm just having some fun with some fun motifs. Like, if in a perfect world, I would love to make these kinds of cowls for everyone in my family. Like, go really nuts for my son and my husband, who would love it. And there's a couple of cat charts in there, and my son loves cats. I don't, he does. So that would be really, really fun. I'm just not sure if I can face it, but we'll see. So that is the Doodle cowl. Let's just call it that. There's a couple of different cowls by that designer, Jamie Lomax, and that's what I'm doing with that. Right, I'm back. So first, my battery ran out. Then I went on to record and showed you my mystery knit along and dropped a bunch of stitches, then fixed those somewhat. And then I kept talking about the shawl, but I didn't actually press record. So let's try again. Stephen West, Mystery Knit Along 2024. It's called the Go Go Dynamo, and I'm going to be showing it. So if you do not want to be spoiled, please do just skip, or maybe just, I think I'll be mainly talking about this for the rest of the episode. So if you're not interested, just come back another day, because I will be showing clue 1, clue 2, and parts of clue 3. Which, if you've seen parts of clue 3, you've basically seen clue 3. Yeah, let's just show it. Like I said, I dropped a ginormous amount of stitches, which was not great, and I do need to fix that, but this is where we are. So you have clue 1, then you have the bubbles and brioche for clue 2, and then for clue 3, which is where I've dropped all of my stitches, this is clue 3. And isn't it just so pretty? I love it. My camera always blows out the shawl. It doesn't photograph it well. It's definitely darker. Like, you can sort of maybe get the idea here. It matches my coat perfectly. And I love it. I love it so much. So as you can see, I think last time I showed it to you, I added the pink mohair, and I decided to go completely nuts and also add my crazy orangey red mohair. And yeah, I'm just going with the flow. I feel like the more cowls I do by Stephen West, and maybe the older I get, the more I just don't care. I just do whatever I feel like, and I think it'll be fine. Like, does it have to be perfect? No. And I think it's pretty, reasonably pretty. I'm having fun, so that's what I'm doing. So yeah, added 2 different colors of mohair. I also have a white here, which I may or may not incorporate. It just depends. And then yesterday I started clue 3, which I think is really fun. It's a bit fiddly, but I've made some modifications that I think make it less fiddly. So I am using German short rows instead of the short rows that Stephen writes in the pattern, just because they make more sense to me and I find them very easy and neat. And I also found a way with the short rows where I can omit the markers, because you're supposed to be putting in markers, removing markers, moving markers, and I just find that that adds so much fiddliness. So I'm not doing that, and I'm also carrying the red yarn across my main color and just twisting it as I do the I-cord at the top. And then the white I just cut off. I just do like a weave and Stephen, and it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, I think what really helped me was to memorize this pattern, which I think if you're glued to the pattern, this will take you forever. But I eventually got into a rhythm with it, and then I knit all of this yesterday. So it is definitely sort of doable, and I think the effect is really, really pretty. So yeah, that is my mystery knit along. I have ordered some DPNs, which I think I put a needle stop on one end, and then I can just use a DPN for the top needle, because that'll make it much easier to handle. And I also desperately need to work out a better way to put the shawl down and pick it up again without dropping stitches, because that's what I keep doing. And I'm just creating problems for myself because it's a massive shawl. There's a lot of stitches, if you want to see. Yeah, it is huge already. So that is my Cowl. I'm really, really glad I joined. I wasn't sure in the beginning if I was going to. I have now also created a Ravelry project page, so you can look up my yarns and everything there. And yeah, that is what I have been knitting this week, which seems to have flown by. In terms of non-knitting talk, I mentioned last week that my mum was about to come, and she did, and it was lovely. It was also very, very busy. And basically she left on Monday morning and I went back to work within 2 minutes. So it feels like it's been a very, very long week. But we did get through it. And yeah, just sort of plugging along. I have all the knitting mojo. I want to knit all the things, so hopefully I can do a little bit of that today before tomorrow we go into like a children's birthday marathon. Not my kid's birthday, but everyone else seems to have their birthday in October, so there's a lot of parties and Halloween discos and all of that stuff. So yeah, hopefully I'll get some knitting time in before then. It's been gloriously autumnal. It's been so beautiful, like actually quite cold for a while, but oh, I love it. I love it when it's sunny or at least dry and autumnal. I love it so much. And if basically when we look into our garden, we have the most beautiful sort of autumnal tree, and I love it. I love it very much. So yeah, random autumn rant right there. Yeah, I feel like I'm a bit out of it today just because my son woke all of us up at 5:45 and that was the end of it. And I am not a morning person, so if we get up at 5:45, by the time my son gets dropped off at school, I feel like I've already had like a full day of work. Like my mind does not cope. So excuse any sort of, yeah, whatever this is, we're just going to go with it. I'm going to finish up this episode and then do some knitting. We have some house admin to do today, and hopefully we can sneak out for a quick like child-free meal before the craziness continues. So thank you so much for watching my podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope wherever you are in the world that you are healthy and safe and have some yarn to play with. Do let me know what you're knitting on, because I love hearing it, and you guys just make me cast on all the things as well. And I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Take care. Happy knitting. Bye.